people like to say the internet is a bad thing and social media is a bad thing, but for me, it's the best thing. If I have a big problem come up, within 10 minutes, I got 30 people I could reach out to, and they could talk me off a ledge or give me some advice. I've been planning the life that I'm living right now. I've been planning it since I was probably 10 years old. And I'm 46 now, so almost 47. So it's, to me, work, it's not a prison to me. It's, I love it. No matter what, I'm working all the time anyway. So
You're listening to the Limitless Leadership Podcast, the podcast designed to help automotive repair shops learn how to lead, coach, train, and manage their team better by sharing proven techniques and thought-provoking interviews from industry leaders. Are you ready to transform your leadership skills by tapping into unrecognized potential to achieve limitless results? Let's get ready for liftoff. It's time to go from great to greater. Here's today's episode.
All right, leaders, whether you're running a shop, leading a team, or leveling up in your career, you know details matter. And if you're like me, that includes keeping your beard on point. That's why I trust the Bearded Brotherhood. Their beard oils, beard balms, and mustache waxes, among other, are made with all natural ingredients, no junk, no shortcuts, just top-tier quality that keeps my beard looking sharp and feeling great. And let's talk scents. Whether it's their best-selling Woodsman or my personal favorite, Lone Stranger, the Bearded Brotherhood keeps me smelling fresh and my beard stays soft all day. If you take your beard game seriously, this is the stuff that you need. And because you're part of the Limitless Leadership podcast family, I've got a deal for you. Just visit thebeardedbrotherhood.co/lead15 to grab your favorite products and get 15% off in the process. Because a great leader deserves a great beard. Now, back to today's episode. I got another great guest for you today, but before I introduce this guest, as a reminder, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, do all the things you need to on social media to make sure that you're helping us reach people and build leaders. That's, of course, our mission statement is to reach people and build leaders. So you can find this episode also on YouTube. If you go to @thebeardedleader, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel. But enough about that. Let's talk about our guest. Our guest today is a friend of mine. Our guest is the owner of Strokers Diesel, and our guest is Mr. Zeb Beard. Zeb, thanks for being here, man.
Man, I'm glad to be here.
Well, glad you're here, man. I have the opportunity to get to know you more here a couple months ago at the Fueling Connections event in North Carolina, and we chatted a little bit. You were also on a panel where you shared a lot about your background, a lot about what you do, how you do it. You shared about your shop, which, I'm going to ask questions about this later, but you have a massive shop in your hometown in Arkansas. And so before we get into all of that, go ahead and share with the audience who you are, what you do, how you do it, and then we're going to ask a bunch of questions after that.
Okay. Well, like you said, I'm Zeb Beard, owner of Strokers Diesel, and we kind of changed the name. We went back to Strokers Diesel and Automotive lately because we started working on some smaller cars again, and not just diesels. We're doing gas burners again now, and part of that's due to the new building is a lot bigger than the old one, and we're in Monticello, Arkansas. We've been in business. I think I opened in 2005, but I've been in this industry for probably since 1996, so I've been around a pretty good while.
So your shop's been open for 20 years. You've been in the industry for 30 years. I know you've seen a lot of things. You've seen a lot of changes. You've gone through a lot. You've grown through a lot. My first question to you is, what advice would you give to someone who's considering opening their own business, starting their own shop, and doing what you did 20 years ago?
Well, the main thing I can say is now there's so much more information out. So stay on the internet, get in all the groups, get in all the Facebook groups, and network as much as possible, and do as much education as you can. Because if I had to go back and do it the way that I did it without internet and networking and things like that, I don't know if I'd have the guts to do it again.
I'm a big believer in this concept of we can go fast alone, but we can go further together. And, part of the reason why I feel like of course, you and I have met a couple times in person, and I've gotten to know you a little bit at those events, but I felt like I kind of already knew you in advance of that because you do have a heavy presence online. You have a heavy presence on Facebook specifically, and you're in these groups and you're networking and you're regularly providing some input. A lot of it is pretty funny. So if you're not following Zeb, or if you're not in these groups, I definitely encourage you to get on there. And I love a lot of your responses to these folks. But what I see in you, as well as a lot of other folks in the ASTA, which you're a member of, is the power of networking. It is, I know I've talked about this quite a bit on this podcast, but once again, another episode, and I'm talking about the power of networking and the power of relationships. Can you talk to the audience about the kinds of relationships you've been able to build and cultivate over the years, and what it's been able to do for you as a business owner, and even as a husband and a father as well?
Yeah, it's essential. I've got friends that I've made and on the internet, and some of them I probably didn't get to meet until I'd been friends with them 10 years on the internet. But by that time, I was already really close to them. You know, we share things that I wouldn't share with my own family. We're extremely close. You know, we share all our ups and downs, the highest highs and the lowest lows. And it's a really big part of my life. It keeps me going. Some people like to say the internet is a bad thing and social media is a bad thing, but for me, it's the best thing, because if I have a big problem come up, within 10 minutes, I can talk to, I got 30 people I could reach out to, and they could talk me off a ledge or give me some advice or something like that. And then I've probably got 30 people that could turn that around with me. They could come to me with their worst problems, and we get it sorted out pretty quick. So
I really admire and respect you, Zeb, for a number of reasons, but one of which is I see you regularly offering to help and provide advice and suggestions, provide your opinion. Folks in these groups, they will ask a lot of questions, and a lot of us, we simply don't know what we don't know, and we see different folks who are brand new to shop ownership, but also folks who've been doing it for 20 years, like yourself. And I'll go back and say, like, you've seen a lot of things, you've gone through a lot of things, you've grown through a lot of things, but you're not one to shy away from offering to help the folks who are going through things that you went through 19, 20 years ago. And I like seeing this level of camaraderie and this level of service from folks like yourself, because ultimately the reason you're able to share this information with other people is because they're going through the same things that you've been through or that you're currently going through. And we know that it's not ever going to be perfect. It's not often going to be pretty, but you have so many other people who are going through the same challenges and the highs and lows of shop ownership as you are. And it's really, you can't be on an island and feel like you're going to be successful. It's so pivotal to have these peers and these other folks in your life. And man, I just, from the outside looking in, when I say the outside, I mean, of course I'm not a shop owner, but I do see how that level of camaraderie and networking, it can make your shop and your home life significantly better because of it.
Yeah. About anything that you could go through in a shop, I've already been through it multiple times and still go through it. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that I still make mistakes every day. I'll take vehicles that I shouldn't have took, or make a mistake on a repair that I shouldn't have done, or something like that. And in the group, sometimes I come off as, pretty arrogant or pretty rough on the poster sometimes. But if they'll kind of be patient and try to see and try to get on the other side of the facade that I put up, they'll see that I'm there to help.
I don't see a level of arrogance. I see, if anything, sometimes you like to troll some folks just because it's fun,
I love that too.
And I see that, which so when I say it's funny, it's comical, it is. But I will also say I do see you helping those same folks, and you'll kind of give them a quick little jab early on, but you're also one to keep on leveling with them and helping them as they experience whatever it is they're experiencing.
That's right. Well, the internet's a tough place, so you got to learn to be tough.
There you go.
I've learned in all my years of being around that is I'm going to run up on you and I'm going to check you pretty hard first. And then I'm going to see how you respond and see how you take it. And then that helps me decide if we're going to be friends or foes. Okay. Note to self. Once you get a pulse check from Zeb, that's going to determine the next direction. Well, so Zeb, you talked about getting into a larger shop because you mentioned that you went from a smaller shop to a larger shop.
But that's an understatement. You went to a massive shop. Your shop is 62,000. I'll say it again, 62,000 square feet. Talk to the audience about what your shop breakdown looks like. I mean, that's a massive shop. I'm curious, what it all entails.
Well, I kind of give you a history of kind of how I started. And I'm going to say probably my first shop was actually a 8x10 plastic building that you buy at Lowe's.
Wow.
And I bought that and started working in there, kind of doing some fab and some welding stuff in there. And that was my first actual shop of my own. And then I was fixing cars in front of it. I put transmissions in front of that shop in the yard, in the grass. Didn't even have gravel. And I got started there, and then I ended up by a twist of fate. I ended up in my first actual shop that was 4,000 feet, and I thought it was huge. And then I moved up to 9,000 feet and then 12,000 feet. And if you've heard me talk very much, my idea when I do something is I'll turn the knob just a little bit, and if it works, well, then I'll turn it as far as it'll go till it breaks off. Yeah. So after the 12,000 feet deal, I said, well, we're just going to go as big as we can. So 62,000 was the number. 62,000.
I got to imagine that the next shop's going to be well over 100,000. I mean, if we're going to keep on cranking it up, right?
Maybe so. I got 10 acres there. So, and I already started on the pad. So if I want to add on, I can.
Awesome.
We do it differently. Right now there's only 2 techs in there, just myself and my son. And then I have a guy that does DVIs. I've got a cleanup guy. And then Susie runs the front. But usually the ideal for 62,000 square feet, the ideal number of techs for me is only about 4 of us. So I like to have at least 10 bays per tech the way I run things.
Okay.
We do mostly heavy line stuff. So, and the way I set it up, I go in, I do all the diagnostics, or if I have a diagnostic tech, I've had those in the past. And we do all the diagnostics, all the test drives, and all that kind of stuff. And then we have what I call R&R techs that they just remove and replace. So we'll have the vehicles sitting in the bays lined up for them, have the parts sitting beside them. So all they have to do is the nuts and bolts.
Got it. So
that's why we have so many bays per technician. So if on big jobs, that's what always the complaint is. Well, we got this big job and we got one small part that hung us up and we can't finish it. Well, if you got 10 vehicles lined up, that's no problem. You just hop from that one, hop on to the next one till you get the part to go back, and you go back to work on that one, and you just keep going down the line till you get them all done.
So 10 bays per tech. If my math is mathing, I mean we're looking at 20 bays in your shop, or 30
or more. I bet we probably got room to put 80 cars in there.
Wow.
Yeah, we've had as many as, I think I counted it up one time. I think we had 50 in there.
Wow. Okay.
Plenty of room. Yeah.
Unbelievable. So across 62,000 square feet, one thing I learned at the Fuel and Connections event is that's also where you're living. You got your house there. You got a tanning bed in your shop. You got a bunch of things in your shop.
Yeah, that shop was kind of like it was just like a fantasy building. It was. Yeah. The bank turned me loose. They said, "Bill, whatever you want, however you want it. Here's the money. Go do it." And so I just went at it, and I said, "I'm going to try to do this once without ever having to do it again." So I just went all out, and I put everything I wanted in there. We've got our living space in there, but as you can see right now, I'm on this really nice lake. I also have a really nice house on I say really nice house, and my house needs some work, but I have a nice house on a really nice lake. So when everybody says, well, how do you get away? Well, on Friday evening, usually in the spring and the summer, by noon or 1 o'clock, I usually leave the shop and come here. So when I'm at what I call home, which is my shop, I just work all the time. I don't do anything else. So there's no point in having an extra house and an extra property that I have to take care of. We learned that at the old shop. I had another house and 40 acres there, and it was really nice. And I enjoyed it for some years, but then I got to where I was never home, and I just wanted to be at the shop all the time. If I'm not on this lake, I want to be at the shop. So
Zeb, I'm going to ask probably a leading question based on what you just shared, because what you just shared with me leads me to believe that maybe you have a challenge or struggle with, if you're at the shop, even if you're done working, you're still working. Are you able to compartmentalize and really separate that work and life while you're living at your shop?
Well, that's one of the reasons I built my house inside the shop, because I'm never able to do that anyway. It doesn't matter. I've been thousands of miles out in the middle of the ocean, and I've been all
Still
over
working.
the place, and I'm up here. I'm still working.
Yeah,
I've been planning the life that I'm living right now. I've been planning it since I was probably 10 years old, and I'm 46 now, so almost 47. So it's, to me, work is not. It's not something that. It's not a prison to me. I love it. No matter what, I'm working all the time anyway, so it doesn't hurt me to live there.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that transparency, and I can relate to that. I mean, I personally, myself, I'm always working, but it's not it's not what we as a society know work to be. You know, work for both you and I we're passionate about it, and so I think that's a good, healthy place to live in. Talk to the shop owner or the service manager or the mechanical specialist, as our friend Carm would like to call it. Talk to those individuals who, let's say they're in year 10, year 15, and the dream that they've had since they were a 10-year-old, much like yourself, it hasn't yet come to fruition, but they're not far from it. What kind of advice or motivational pep talk, if you will, would you give them to say, hey, your dreams are on the other side of that horizon, like keep going and keep growing? Like, what kind of advice would you give to somebody who's just not there yet?
Well, it's interesting that you brought up that 10-year mark there, because that's about the time I turned it around. I really struggled up until about that 10-year mark, and that's when I turned it around. I had some things go wrong. I had some bad customers at that time, and I was at my breaking point. It was either going to happen or it wasn't going to happen. I was ready for things to change, and I lit a fire within myself, and I said, look, I'm not going to let these customers run over me anymore. Mm-hmm. It's going to be, we're going to get what we're worth, and we're going to start making money no matter what. If we fix a car, if a car leaves here repaired, we're going to make money. And if we can't make money on it, we're not going to do it. And that's kind of when I started turning things around.
Gotcha.
And so the 10-year mark was the turnaround for me. I would hope somebody that was watching this podcast or listening to it either way it would be a lot easier if you could turn it around before 10 years. But if you're at that 10-year mark and you still hadn't made it, now's the time to do it. You can do it at 10 years.
Well, the way that you did it, you said you lit that fire and it just changed. I got to imagine there were some applicable changes that you did, whether it be changing, price changing, or I certainly know that mindset was a part of this, because you lit the fire and you just made a decision like, no, we're going to change. What other things did you actually do? Like, what was the turning point? What are things that you did to actually make that change?
Well, I would say the biggest thing, and I see other shops struggling with it all the time, is say you're in the shop. Any shop owner usually that's dedicated like I was, you're going to be in the shop 50, 60, 70 hours a week. Mm-hmm. And when you get to the end of the week and you look and you've only billed out 30, if you're running the place by yourself like I was, where did my time go? Start billing for that time. That's the biggest problem that shops have right now. And I'm going to say a lot of them still do, because that's how I get asked all the time. Well, how do you have that giant shop and profitable in that giant shop with all that space with so few techs? And that's how we do it. We are as efficient as we can be, and all the hours that we work, we bill them out. And that's the deficit most of the time that kills the shops. The labor rate per hour, yeah, that'll hurt you too. But if it doesn't matter if your labor rate's $300 an hour, if you're only billing 3 hours and you're spending 10, it doesn't matter what your labor rate is. You're not going to be profitable that way.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing I see with most, young shops or even old shops that are having trouble. They're not billing the hours that they need to bill.
Yeah. Bill the hours you need to bill, and you're going to have more productive days than busy days. Cause I can relate. You work so hard, you put in all the time, effort, and energy. And then at the end of the day, it doesn't feel like you have much to show for it. And those are the busy days, but not necessarily productive days. You mentioned that your other technician is your son. Talk to the shop owner who's listening, or the team member who is working with family, whether it be son, daughter, father, mother, whoever. What kind of advice can you give to someone who is working with family and running a business at the same time?
Well, it's tough, and you can't force it. That's the thing about it. My daughter, she was the opposite. My son's been with me since he was, well, I guess he was a year old when I opened that shop. He was born in '04 and opened that shop in '05. So he's been there almost every day of his life, and he knew that's what he was going to do. Now my daughter was the opposite. She worked in there a little bit, but she just didn't take to it.
Mm-hmm.
And she went on and worked for other people and did great, but she never could work for me. So I would say don't force it. Don't force them to. Let them make their own decision, and they'll come around. And I had my doubts about my son at one time. He was having some trouble, and I didn't see him taking the technician role. I said, well, maybe he can work in here, but I don't know that he's ever going to be a technician. This was probably in his early teens, 10, 11, 12, 13 years old. And at that point in my life, I was already pretty good at it.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't think he would. And then, I don't know, something changed in him. Something changed in him about 13, 14, 15 years old, and he came on quick. And now I'd put him against anybody in the world.
That's awesome.
There is nobody in this world as far as nuts and bolts go. He's still not strong in diagnostics and that kind of stuff, but he came along, and as far as nuts and bolts, pulling a transmission and putting it back in, I'd put him against anybody.
Well, he's got a great coach in you, a great mentor in you, a great leader in you. Speaking of your daughter, isn't there a doctor in the family as of late?
Yeah, she came on. She went to, she decided, we talked about this the other day, after she just graduated pharmacy school, and she's actually officially a doctor. She's not like a doctor like when you go to the doctor and they check your heartbeat and all that stuff, but she's a pharmaceutical doctor, I guess is what they call
awesome.
It. And she claims that they're smarter than doctors. She's a lot
well,
like me.
Of course she would.
Yeah, she's a lot like me in that she's always thought pretty highly of herself. So she'll be quick to tell you we're smarter than doctors. Pharmacists are smarter than doctors because we tell them what. She said a lot of times they prescribe medicines that we have to call them and say, hey, you can't do that. So she says we're actually smarter than doctors.
That's awesome. Well, good for her. I know you're a proud father. That's a proud father kind of moment.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mentioned that your son is under a great leader in yourself. Of course, this is a leadership podcast, Zeb. I'll ask you, what does leadership mean to you?
Well, leadership means to me is always being there for the ones that I'm leading. I always have their back no matter what. I'm not a good teaching leader. It's funny because I don't understand what this hang up I have, but it's hard for me to teach my employees something, like to go in and show them a technical thing and show them how to do it. They say I'm good at it. I don't feel like I'm too good at it. But if somebody hires me to come, if they want me to come teach a class, I'm really good at that. And I call myself a good leader, but if I have to go in and teach them something, I'm not very good. Like my son, the way I taught him, I would just say, all right, son, this transmission has to be put in. There's shop key. There's your computer with shop key. Figure out how to do it. And he just did it. So I'm not a good leader in that way, but I feel like I'm doing pretty good in other ways.
Yeah. Well, and I'll respectfully challenge that, Zeb, because I mean, we just talked about how you can put your son up against anybody. And I've got to assume that a lot of that reason is because of the way that you were able to coach and train and teach and manage and lead him throughout the years. You talked about teaching a class. This September 25th through the 27th is the ASTA Expo at the Raleigh Convention Center in North Carolina. And you'll be teaching a class with Matt Fonslow, Tech Talks.
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. So if I'm considering going to the expo, what can I expect from your Tech Talks session?
Well, Tech Talks is a pretty unique class. Matt kind of heads it up. He's an excellent teacher, instructor, and he's he's just one of those technical guys that, I mean, he is top tier. I mean, I put him with anybody.
Yeah.
And what this Tech Talks deal is, it's for people like me who may have an interest in maybe teaching some classes later on, but we just kind of want to get our feet wet in there. So he's right there beside us. If we start stumbling or struggling, or like me, I'm bad about going through my material too fast. So if we go through it too fast and we still got a lot of time left, he can jump in and help us and just take some of the load off of us. And this class also is good because the audience at any time, they can, we're always open to questions. They can bring up topics, and it's kind of like an open floor to open mic type.
Yeah, I like that.
It's pretty laid back. I took it. I guess I took it at ASTA last year was the first time that I took it, and we were talking about some things in there, and of course I raised my hand and brought up some things, some tips and tricks that I know. And so after the class was over, Matt got a hold of me. He said, "Man, would you be interested in presenting at Vision?" I said, "Oh man, yeah, that's the big leagues, Vision."
Yeah.
And the way my personality, if somebody gives me a chance to speak, I'm gonna take it. I'm not afraid of it. So I was all in on that. I did get a little nervous and went through my material pretty fast, but it went pretty well.
Awesome.
So then he asked me to come back. So I guess I did a pretty good job.
There you go.
Me to come back.
Yeah. I like the play on words. I mean, Tech Talks, it's kind of a play on words from TED Talks, which I think are a fantastic series, TED Talks. But if you're listening to this episode and you're considering going to the ASTA Expo, man, at the very least, like Zeb Beard is going to be there. I mean, this guy is a fantastic mentor, a fantastic influence in the industry. And now you get to come and see him at the Tech Talks event. So I would highly encourage you to come out if you're considering it. Zeb, question for you in relation to advice. Best advice, best advice in general that you've ever received from a coach or a mentor. What put you on the spot, but what would you say to that?
I can't think of any single thing that this person told me, because he's told me so much, and I've said it many times, and I would be nothing without this person. I don't know if I probably wouldn't even still be in business, but if I was, I'd be a total failure. And his name's Kevin Markle with Pro Autotech. And he's mostly a technical training coach, but he's a very smart businessman, and he's been there for me. I think probably the first class I took with him was probably in 2009, and this is before, I guess, YouTube and everything like it is. Maybe there was a YouTube, but I had never seen it. And it's probably earlier than that. I would say 2007, something like that. But anyway, I went to the first class with him. The Snap-on truck pulled up, and the Snap-on guy that I've got's been with me since 96. Anyway, he had his flyer on his truck, and I said, "What is this?" And he said, "Well, it's a trainer that comes through." He said he hadn't been here in a while. We used to get him all the time back in the 90s, but he's coming back around. You should go. I said, "I'll be there." So at that time, I didn't even know what a lab scope was. I didn't even know what it was. I knew there was a Modus and a Solus. I had a Solus, and I knew on the back of the Modus there was this thing that had 4 slots in it for wires, but I didn't know what it was. And so I went to this class, and was just within 10 minutes, I was blown away. And I told Kevin, I stood up in the class. I said, "Look, my goal is to learn everything that I want to know." So in those days, after that, he would come every 6 months. So in those days, we didn't have phones and things that would record. So I went to Walmart and bought one of those voice recorder things. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
The size of a candy bar. And every class, I would press record on that thing and set it on the table and let it record. And then I would listen to that all the time. I would just listen to the whole class and practice and do those things. And then I got to where that with the technical stuff, I would take notes and write it down, and I would, each class I would try to pick up one more thing, because it's too much at once. So I would pick up one test, and I would run that test on every vehicle, and I would get really good at that test, and then I would move on. And then I got to where I was making up my own test, and me and Kevin ended up getting to be best friends, and we spent a lot of time together. He's real secretive. Nobody has his phone number, but I do have his phone number. And but that's my main mentor. I really, I wouldn't be anything without him. I've said it a million times, but I would be nothing without Kevin Markle.
That's awesome. It is so important that we are willing to surround ourselves with people that we trust to speak truth into our life. Of course, I'm biased. I'm a coach, Zeb, as you know, but I also have my own coach, and in fact, two of them come to think of it. But it's just so important that we're surrounding ourselves with people who can help us see things that we couldn't, who can help us learn things that we didn't know. Because think about I think you and I have talked about this too before, Zeb. The amount of people who go to these events like the ASTA Expo and Vision, like you alluded to, we're coming off the heels of the Tools Conference in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. There's a lot of great conferences that happen throughout the industry, but I want to say the number I've heard is like only the top 1% to 2% of people, and I shouldn't say top, but only 1% to 2% of people in the entire industry are attending events like this. And there's so many people who don't know about the trainings and the coaching and the opportunities, just the networking, the relationships, the Facebook groups that you and I are both in. Like, there's so many things that there's so many opportunities for people to learn and grow and develop through other people, and they just simply don't know about it. And that's really one of the reasons why I really want to try to get this podcast out specifically. Granted, those people, if they're not attending the conferences, they may not be listening to podcasts either, but my hope is that they can find this somewhere on some kind of streaming platform, or maybe someone tells them about it. Maybe they find it on YouTube just by happenstance. But ultimately, there's a lot of great individuals in the industry who are willing to help, willing to teach, willing to coach, train, and manage. And my hope is that we can grow that number from 1% to, let's call it 5% to start, and then 10. And then eventually most people in the industry are attending these events. And I mean, we're going to be selling out. I mean, it's like these events, they can't hold. I mean, Vision's massive, but one of these days you might not be able to hold that many attendees at a Vision or an ASTA Expo.
Yeah, I try to invite as many people as I can back home around, those shops down there. It's really hard. And like you said, it's only the 1% or 2% of the country that are in the groups and the really active. But out in the trenches, out in the real world, it's so many that really need the training. But if you can ever get them to go one time, that's all it takes.
That's all it takes. That's right. That's right.
It rejuvenates me. I have to go. I need to go to some kind of event. I need to go about once every 4 to 6 months. I have to go because I'll start getting down. I'll start getting in some bad habits and all that kind of stuff. And if I go to a good training event, it rejuvenates me. It gets me back. It makes me hold myself accountable because, I got an image to uphold. I can't.
There you go. You do. You got that image. You got that social media image that you're upholding pretty well, my friend.
That's right.
Well, awesome. Zeb, man, thanks for being here. I really appreciate you for being on the show, and hopefully this isn't your last time. But before we go, any parting words of wisdom, anything you want to share with the audience before we sign off?
Yeah. Sign up for, I know we've been beating on this the whole episode, but sign up for ASTA and be there. I'm telling you, it's the best event. I go to Vision's good too, but ASTA, it's something special about it. And everybody told me that up until this last year. And I never went up until this last year, and I went, and I'm telling you, I've been looking forward to it since the day that I left last year's. I've been looking forward to this year's.
Yeah.
So come to ASTA, come find me, come hang out with us in the lobby. We're gonna carry on some stuff down there. I'm telling you, you'll have a blast.
Yeah.
And you'll learn a lot of good stuff too. Even if you can't get into a single class, just come hang out with us in the lobby, and don't be afraid. Just get in there and bump shoulders. You see Keith Perkins, you walk up and introduce yourself. You see Matt Fonslow, you see Carm Capriotto, you see all these superstars. Just walk up to them, put your hand out, shake it real hard, and just pretend like you're a celebrity yourself. Just make yourself, just introduce yourself to all these celebrities. They'll talk to you and it'll help you.
Yeah, they will, and everyone is very welcoming, open arms. Speaking of celebrities, Zeb's got a celebrity lookalike. I'm kind of thinking like a mix of Kid Rock and Kurt Cobain. I don't know,
I get called both of those. I've been Kid Rock for Halloween a few times.
Okay.
And Kevin Markle, his wedding was on Halloween, so we all had to dress up, and that was the first time I made an appearance as Kid Rock.
Okay, I like it.
Kid Rock's kind of looking old lately, so. I may have to switch to somebody else.
Yeah.
But I get called Kurt Cobain a lot. At ASTA last year, I got called Brad Pitts.
Okay. I see it. I see it a little bit.
Brad Pitts is what he said.
Yeah, plural, not just Pitt.
Right.
Yeah. Well, so Kid Rock, we'll say Prime Kid Rock is what your celebrity doppelganger is. There you go.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Zeb, man, thanks for being here. We appreciate you. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Limitless Leadership Podcast. Have a great day. Don't forget to smile today. Tell your loved ones how much they mean to you. I'm Josh Parnell, reminding you to keep leading well.